received leaked images from an RCMP horse. Actually, there's ceremonial, the ceremonial ride. They're real cops. They don't just do the ceremonial RCMP ride. And they were all dispatched to Ottawa to run the riot horses, not just ceremonially, but to stomp on elderly ladies. And they're being put up at the Chateau Laurier. If you've ever been to Ottawa, you know that's the finest hotel in the city. It really is one of the flagship hotels of what used to be called the Fairmont chain of hotels. It's gorgeous. It's one of the original CP Rail hotels. One of the most expensive hotels in the city, one of the fanciest. And I should tell you, that's where the Nazi swastika flag was photographed a few weeks ago that Trudeau refers to. The entire hotel's been taken over by police. That's where they're staying, police who've come in from across the country to stay there in the most luxurious setting possible, and making a lot of overtime. Anyway, so the RCMP musical ride has a WhatsApp chat group. And if you know what WhatsApp is, you understand immediately. If you don't, it's like a little, it's a communications app, and you can have a group with 20 or 50 or 100 of your friends in it, and you share messages and photos in it. It's private from anyone who's not in it. But there was about 50 RCMP officers from the musical ride who were in this WhatsApp chat group, and they were bantering, and you can see they showing how much they love being at the Chateau Laurier and how much they're boasting about their overtime. One of them talks about how he wants to show the peaceful protesters who are against Trudeau what jackboots are really like. He says that he wants to show their jackboots. You know, jackboots, it's a phrase for fascist police who violently attack peaceful citizens. You know, that's what jackboots mean. And just in case there's any doubt, a number of these RCMP horse officers posted video of the riot horses charging the crowd and stomping that elderly lady. So they're literally posting that, calling it awesome, saying they should do it more. They should practice that maneuver. They're laughing. One person in the group says, "Oh, that's not the kinder, gentler RCMP," but not a single soul disagreed. 50 of Canada's best are actually Canada's worst. They were reveling in the cruelty. They were celebrating hurting people. You know, a common motto of police forces is to serve and protect. These police are out of control, just like their boss, Justin Trudeau. There's no check and balances anymore. It's whatever their id tells them to do, whatever their impulse tells them to do. If they want to beat a woman with sticks, they'll do it. If they want to shoot a woman point blank range, they'll do it. And if the fact that she was a journalist who embarrassed Justin Trudeau in the last election, well, I bet they're going to report that directly to Trudeau for a promotion. Here's what I'm talking about. Remember when our Alexa Lavoie put the best question in the election debates to Trudeau last October? Take a look.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Alexa pour Rebel News. Donc, M. Trudeau, je vais revenir rapidement sur ce qui s'est passé hier. Vous avez diabolisé l'un des rares médias qui ne reçoit pas d'argent du gouvernement. Vous avez exprimé votre opinion en disant que nous propageons la désinformation. Si c'était vrai et si c'était le cas, la Cour fédérale ne nous aurait pas permis d'être ici aujourd'hui. Je suis moi-même scientifique et je me base sur les faits. Ma question est la suivante. L'Israël est l'un des pays les plus vaccinés au monde. Ils sont rendus maintenant à leur 4e rappel de vaccin. Ils ne considèrent plus que ceux qui ont reçu 2 doses de vaccin sont pleinement vaccinés. Ma question est, plusieurs Canadiens ne désirent pas avoir un rappel de vaccin. Allez-vous leur enlever leurs privilèges reliés au passeport vaccinal? Et aurez-vous l'obligeance de répondre à ma question en tant que Premier ministre ou allez-vous encore diaboliser mon média?
J'ai partagé ma perspective sur ton organisation hier soir. J'ai plus rien à dire.
Ça démontre bien qui vous êtes. Merci.
Are you telling me it's a coincidence that Alexa was the reporter targeted to be shot, and these RCMP are cheering violence? Yeah, you know what? 50 years I've been a supporter of the cops. I cannot say that now anymore. I just cannot say that. Now, Trudeau had a press conference today. They're proceeding with a vote in Parliament, even though the emergency, the threat to the nation, which was never here, even on their own terms, it's gone. Like I say, all the blockades have gone. All the trucks are out of Ottawa. There just literally is nothing anymore. And that they're proceeding with it. They want the emergency status. They don't need the emergency for any tools. They didn't in the first place. They want the state of emergency. But even before tonight's vote, a couple of days ago, Chrystia Freeland was saying there are some parts of this emergency that will be made permanent. She loves the power of seizing bank accounts without a court process.
In terms of the financial instruments which our government is using right now to act against these illegal blockades and illegal occupation, we reviewed very, very carefully the tools at the disposal of the federal government. And we used all the tools that we had prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act, and we determined that we needed some additional tools. Now, some of those tools, we will be putting forward measures to put those tools permanently in place. The authorities of FinTrack, I believe, do need to be expanded to cover crowdsourcing platforms and payment platform and their payment providers. So that is something that we need to do, and we will do, and that needs to be in place permanently. Some of these other tools, like the sharing of information between law enforcement and financial services, and the requirement of financial services to be reviewing their accounts proactively, and the immunity from prosecution that we have provided to them in doing this. These are extraordinary measures that we absolutely believe are necessary in the current circumstances, that are having an impact, and let me also point out, having a peaceful impact. And the other aspect of the financial tools that I would point to as being really effective and important is being clear that insurance on trucks that participate in these illegal occupations and blockades will be suspended. So we didn't have those tools. I don't believe that those tools should be part of the toolbox of a government in ordinary times, but they are necessary in these extraordinary circumstances, and they are having a very clear impact.
Today, she was asked how you got your bank account unfrozen. She said, oh yeah, well, just change your political views, no longer protest, and you'll get your money back.
The RCMP has given to the financial institutions names of leaders and organizers of the protests and of people whose trucks were part of occupations and blockades. That is the only information, according to the RCMP, that the RCMP has given to financial institutions. I think it's also really important for everyone to be clear, and this speaks to the getting our facts straight point, that these measures applied only as of the 15th of February. That is when financial support of these illegal blockades and occupations began to be sanctioned. And then finally, let me say, for anyone who is concerned that their accounts may have been frozen because of their participation in these illegal blockades and occupation, the way to get your account unfrozen is to stop being part of the blockade and occupation. These measures were put in place to disrupt illegal activity in Canada.
But that's actually not true. There is no mechanism. She suggested that people contact the police to have their bank accounts released. But that's not how it works. You don't call up the RCMP and say, please unfreeze my bank account, and they do it. That's not how it works. I don't know if Chrystia Freeland doesn't know or doesn't care, or if she thinks that the reporters are just so, every single one of them bought and paid either from the CBC or from the media bailout. Obviously, Rebel News, not allowed. They'd probably shoot us if we showed up. There's no rule of law anymore. And Trudeau says he might need to keep things around just a bit longer, 2 weeks to flatten the curve and all that, because you never know. Something bad might happen in the future, so better have the emergency laws in place now, sort of a permanent emergency.
What specifically is in that act that is so vital right now to protect Canadians?
We saw for a number of days and weeks into the blockades that it was extremely difficult to get tow trucks to come and tow big rigs. One of the specific measures is an ability to compel tow truck drivers to come and do their jobs. When the Emergencies Act was brought in, many tow truck companies said, okay, we'll do it, didn't need to be compelled, but there were some companies that needed to be compelled under the Emergencies Act to remove trucks. And we've seen right now that there are trucks holding in places like Arnprior and Embrun and other places that have indicated a desire or an openness to returning to blockades right now. So that is a power we may well need.
The media who was there was so gross. David Akin, one of the grossest, literally started off by thanking Trudeau.
David Akin, Global News, thank you for taking our questions, and thank you for the kind words about supporting our work. I'd suggest the best way to do that, of course, is take an extended amount of time for questions from journalists.
I see today that the government of Ukraine is reportedly bringing in martial law. They have an excuse, I would think. There's a chance that Russia's going to invade. I haven't been following that story too closely, been a little bit more focused on things here at home. If they brought in martial law in Ukraine, I could understand. They have an excuse. They're on the brink of war, perhaps. What's our excuse? These are the darkest days. Trudeau says if you don't like it, well, just wait 3 years and run for office.
What you can do is vote. What you can do is run for office. That's how change happens in a democracy.
No, democracy is not one day of voting every 4 years, punctuating an authoritarian ruler. Democracy is a set of processes and checks and balances, a set of guaranteed constitutional rights that cannot be overridden, even if you have a majority vote. My favorite example of majority rule versus a constitutional democracy is if you are walking down an alley and two muggers stop you. We all know it's a crime if they say, your money or your life. But what if the two muggers said, no, we're going to have a vote. And there's two of us and one of you. Let's have a vote if you give us your money or not. It's 2 against 1. Give us your money. That's not democracy. I mean, it is theoretically a very literal democracy, but what we have is a constitutional democracy where certain rights cannot be taken away, even if the two muggers have a vote on it. And that's what Trudeau doesn't understand. He doesn't actually believe in democracy. He believes in authoritarian rule punctuated by a vote every 4 years. He's wrong.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.